learn to improve conversions and generate more leads with the video podcast at marketingoptimization.tv. Hello, and welcome to Marketing Optimization with Alex Science. I'm your host, Alex Harris, and today we're chatting with Kunal from Tightrope Interactive. How you doing, Kunal?
Pretty good. How about you?
Excellent. To get started, what is your definition of optimization and why is it beneficial?
So my definition of website optimization is pretty straightforward. It is essentially tuning a website to achieve the business goals of my team or organization.
Right.
And in the case of my company, our main goal is conversion rate optimization.
Awesome. Let's break that down even further.
Sure.
When you're doing conversion rate optimization, what are some of the KPIs or the goals that you're really going after when you're doing your consulting?
Sure. So like what I mainly deal with is lead generation. So our major KPI is essentially amount of leads that we send to our clients. So that's essentially our conversion rate is the amount of people who actually submit our forms, and that information gets sent to our clients. So that's the main thing that we look at. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people don't realize really the potential of lead generation. You know, people who are just kind of getting started, they think they're just going to put up a landing page and this form, and that's really the gist of it. Mm-hmm. A lot of it comes down to making sure that you get qualified leads, ensure that the leads are optimized in the right way, that the creative's all right. Why don't you talk about a little bit of the process that you go through in order for your lead generation?
Sure. So basically, the lead generation process that we run through is optimizing that has a lot of different touch points, so to speak. So the media buyers who actually drive traffic to our sites have to optimize the right keywords and also the right mix of traffic, mobile versus desktop, and also just essentially taking into account different demographics, and then making sure that actually makes sense to our user. So we really are trying to, when we drive traffic to our sites, we have to put ourselves in the mind of the user, so to speak. And then when we can do that and understand what users need, then with all of our creatives and our web properties, we can then optimize that to better cater to the user experience. And that's really where we'll get really good quality leads and also a higher conversion rate. Right. I kind of want to touch on that. Basically, the thing that's super important for our lead generation business is delivering high quality leads. And when I mean high quality, it's like leads that are actually going to possibly give our clients money later down the road.
Absolutely.
So what's really important for that is that we really get our messaging correct, and we also basically deliver really transparent value to our users and educate them as much as possible before they go through that entire process. And sure, that might mean that we do get a conversion rate hit as far as actual conversion rates of amount of leads sent to our clients. But as a silver lining of that, since we are sending them higher quality leads that are educated and informed, a higher percentage of those conversions are actually going to make that decision to make a purchase.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that ability to maximize the return on investment and ensure that your clients get high quality leads, because a lot of people do leave a lot of money on the table. They go through the spray and pray process. They buy everything they can and they don't target enough. What would you say to someone who's maybe running a department or running a business or running even an e-commerce site to ensure that you're maximizing your return on investment the best?
Oh, that's a pretty general question. I mean, I think that's something that I would first want to understand better as far as the context of that.
Great.
I mean, at the end of the day, what you really need to do is you need to really deliver very honest value to your user. And that's all you can do at the end of the day, because as someone who uses a website, you want to make sure that if you're filling out a form, you're going to get what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you can keep that big picture in mind, then you will be able to monetize that the best way possible.
Yep. And what I was trying to guess that you would say is that you test it. You test everything to kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
So let's go through the process of you testing it to figure out how to optimize and to do conversion optimization.
Sure thing. Yeah. So that's the big thing about our company, and I don't know why I don't mention it. I think it's because I live and breathe it every day. We are serious about testing. That's like what we do every day. For pretty much any feature for every website that we build.
Right.
And so we use a lot of different tools. Obviously, Optimizely is a big one, but we'll also use some in-house analytics tools as well as Google Analytics and Mixpanel. And we will use all of those to basically gain specific insights for a certain feature we're testing. Mm-hmm. And right now, we're doing a couple of really cool things. We're trying to figure out mobile lead gen, which is definitely really challenging, but also really rewarding if we can get it right, because there is a huge demand for mobile, as in every single online industry. And I think being a company that just lives and breathes testing and optimization, it's a no-brainer that we're going to start testing things out.
Yeah.
Another really interesting thing we're doing is we're trying to use analytics programs to understand user behavior. So what I mean by that is, like, a really interesting example is that we have a specific page that shows a bunch of different options to our users, and we want to know if a user is clicking on a specific option. So what I did was I got my team to implement Mixpanel to basically detect if users are clicking on specific options, and that way we can actually get an aggregated amount of user clicks to determine roughly what their behavior is like on that page. So It's not like a heat map, but it's more like actual numbers that we can actually tie to specific options, because the thing is, those options change depending on where the user is in the United States. Mm-hmm. So with a heat map, you'll just see where they're clicking on a page, but we actually wanted to know what options are shown and what people are clicking on the most.
Yeah, Mixpanel is really super powerful, and if you want to try it, they do have a free way of using it. If as soon as you get to a certain number of impressions, you do have to pay for it, but it is free to start using, and you can set it up and create your funnel to go through that process. And obviously, you have the flexibility to code it to make it meet your needs.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great piece of software. They have a really good onboarding process too. They're extremely helpful. The people there, they were happy to sit down with my engineers and basically just give them any help they needed. And it's just a really smooth implementation. People are very impressed with it here.
Yeah.
So it's been good.
Yeah, and they touch on the quality of the design and everything they do in the user interface. Definitely a great company. I would love to get Mixpanel on the show if you're listening. You touched on mobile landing pages, and a lot of people, me as a web designer, a lot of people do come to me for that these days. Buying pay-per-click ads, it only makes sense to create landing pages focused on mobile or even iPad. What have you seen people using mobile landing pages for?
Oh man, just like out there in general? Or
what type of verticals, what type of campaigns are they using it for? Are they doing responsive versus individual, standalone mobile pages?
Yeah, well, really, like a lot of the lead gen stuff I've seen out there is really badly designed for mobile.
Absolutely.
I have not really seen anything that I've been really wowed by or impressed by. Mm-hmm. So I don't really have anything that stands out to mind. As far as lead gen goes for mobile, the only things I can really think about, which are really amazing, are actually installed apps.
Wow.
A really popular one is Mint.com. It's such a powerful lead gen application, but it's just so elegantly designed. And I think the thing I like the most about it is that it really delivers value to the user. It's extremely usable. And you can tell that they've put a lot of effort into actually testing out all the different functionality so people can actually manage their money on a phone, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But as far as actual web apps go, I've not really seen much out there.
Yeah.
That works well.
Yeah, and you can go and you can just search for anything on Google in your phone or whatever, and you can click on it. You can see how bad some of the stuff really is out there. So as an optimizer or marketing agency, it's actually really inspiring of how much opportunity there really is out there to actually get work.
Yeah.
and find clients for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, no, totally. You're 100% right. Like, there's just such a need for it, and I think most users from our testing that we've seen, it's like they actually prefer to see a desktop site over the mobile app because it's like, oh, I can see everything. They're almost expecting that sort of translation to happen. But when you give them like a mobile optimized design, they get kind of frustrated because a lot of the times it's like you just take away features and then simplify it. But at the end of the day, it's not really going to help because that's all you're doing is essentially skinning that mobile app from like a PC or desktop based implementation. And I think what's really important is you have to really rethink the mindset of the user, and then test that and validate it. Yeah.
Well, obviously, from the experience you have and the team you work with, you've gained a lot of knowledge. So let's give the audience some advice, maybe 3 tips that you would advise someone to optimize their lead generation process or their landing pages to improve their conversion rates.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think most of this advice has to go around the testing process itself, because there are so many great test ideas that you can have, but the question is, how do you pick the right ones?
Right.
And so I think the biggest thing for me is like, just be very, very fast with your testing. So just like try fast, fail fast, try again, and just do it over and over.
Yep.
And do it in very digestible, small chunks. So like test one element at a time, validate that, and then go to the next one.
Right.
If you start making a bunch of changes and then testing all of those at once, you might get a different result and you won't know what caused that single thing to happen.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing. And then the third thing, as far as mobile goes, is like try to use a wide variety of testing tools aside from just one. Basically use like some forms of user testing and videos, and use analytics, use Optimizely, use anything else you can get. Just basically get as much data as you can and try to make sense of it, because with mobile, it's still a big question mark for a lot of people, even us. And we're still trying to learn about it. So just get your hands on as much data as possible and just keep on trying until it starts to make sense.
Yeah. Well, I love it because you really touched on a lot of great things there. And what I kind of summarize, one point that you spoke about was the feedback loop. How quickly can you get feedback from your test and iterate to make changes a lot quicker? Because if the more time you spend, you basically are leaving money on the table, or maybe doing wasted tests, because you're going to find a lot of stuff that doesn't work.
Right. So today we ran a test and we were able to validate it in about like 3 hours.
Wow.
Because it's all about just lining up the test with the media buying and all of that stuff, so that way you can get the amount of data in right at the right time, and then you can see with a substantial data set how it's doing, and then decide whether to continue or to stop the test. And I think that's one thing that I've found really useful, is just coordination amongst the entire team, that, hey, a test is going on right now, let's make sure that it gets the right attention. And then there's a lot of learning there that happens because everybody's aware that it's going on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the other thing you mentioned there is use a variety of tools, because you start to make all these different assumptions about all these different things, but until you look at it in many different perspectives, you don't see it in the right way. How the heat maps work differently from the user testing versus the mix panel versus the analytics. And then you really start to create this background and this history of what has worked or not worked, and trying not to have those same failures along the way.
Right. And I think, like, for example, like Optimizely and Google Analytics and some of our in-house reporting tools that all measure traffic and conversions differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
And then the question is, like, what's the right number? We don't know. But as long as you can see a pattern and it's statistically significant, that can validate the hypothesis that we're going towards, then that's a good win for us.
Yep.
And for us, it's like, it's not like trying to get this huge bump in conversion rate. It's just like the small things, like a couple percents here and there. And that makes up a great amount of improvement as a whole.
Yeah, because it's directly targeted to an individual ad or a flow of traffic. Because if you really focus on trying to raise the overall conversion rate, you're probably not going to be able to do that very easily. But if you do it in these micro conversions with the right amount of traffic, with the qualified leads, then you're probably going to raise your bottom line over time.
Yeah, well, and here's my opinion about testing is that, it's still a very vague, very ambiguous process, and it's almost like trying to swim in the dark. You really only see like a light really far down at the end of the water. You don't really see what's around as you're swimming through. So it's basically like you have to just go forward.
What about Optimizely? You obviously have a lot of experience with that. Would you have some advice for people who maybe are just starting to use Optimizely, or they've been using Optimizely for a while, and maybe you have some opinions on how to use it better?
Yeah, I think one really interesting thing is one thing we were not aware about was Optimizely really does affect page speed if the snippet is on the page. And so if you're running large traffic to lead generation sites or other sites, it's page speed's a big issue.
Sure.
Obviously anything past 3 seconds, you're going to get a lot of drop off exponentially. And the Optimizely snippet itself has a few settings that you can tweak to basically minimize the amount of space it takes, and some of the HTTP requests that it makes, you can actually minimize that. And also having like one really easy thing you can do is like if you have a lot of tests running or a lot of pause tests in your Optimizely dashboard that are not archived, those all actually get loaded into your page.
Yep.
Every single page that's tested, and that actually slows everything down. It's I think that's something to be aware of. Another thing more on the process side is that it's really good to do Optimizely tests very simply. Start really simple. Don't try to do a lot of crazy multivariate testing until you're really comfortable with how A/B testing works and how you can actually understand the platform and use it to make some really good decisions.
Yep.
I think that's really where. That's what I feel. That's my experience. Obviously, I haven't really. I just got on Optimizely about 6 months ago, so that's what I know from there.
Yeah, and I know that you're not targeting them specifically because most all JavaScript focused testing tools, they all slow down your site no matter what, because they still have to load it. And more than likely, you have some tests running in there. So if you can archive them all, move them out, clean it out as much as possible, it's definitely useful for sure.
Right. And one thing I have to say is also if you can do a test where you can actually do like your A/B test through something like PHP where it's all backend, it will speed things up.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, or say like you need to keep a traffic split for a long time to do like a long-term test. Don't do it in Optimizely. Try to do it in like a actual implemented solution, because that will actually reduce your cost with Optimizely or a different testing tool, and also it'll increase your page speed. So.
Yeah, you can even do that by sending the same pay-per-click ad to 2 different pages and not even have to code it. There's many different ways.
It just depends on your implementation. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, a lot of great information right here. Let's take a second and tell people about Tightrope Interactive.
Cool. So Tightrope Interactive, we are here in downtown San Francisco. We are in 2 verticals. We do lead generation for online education and other industries, and as well as monetized downloads. And you may know us for webinstall.com and a few other things. But I'm personally on the lead gen side, so I'm not as knowledgeable about the download stuff. But yeah, we are super focused on optimization and testing, and we've basically been very successful because of our optimization and testing of our websites.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what would be one thing that you can tell optimizers to really help them take their website and their conversion rates to the new level?
Don't be afraid of failing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Actually, look forward to that. Learn from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Fail and fail often. The quicker you fail, the more you can iterate.
Yeah, and also, there's it's just statistics. At the end of the day, if you try several times and you fail, there's going to be one time where you're successful.
Yep.
And so, if you can do that, if you can at least be successful once or twice, that's something. So
yeah, that's what optimization is all about. It's about taking risks and just trying things that are new that you may not think have actually worked. Because a lot of times you find things that work that you never really thought were going to work anyway.
Yep.
Awesome. So, let's close by telling people how they can find out more about you.
It's cool. So yeah, you can find more. You can find out more about Tightrope Interactive by going to tightropeinteractive.com, and you can find more about me by going to kunaldivetti.com, and that's just my personal page. I aside from doing website optimization, I also do interactive art. So that's my big deal. I'm going to go to Maker Faire this May. I'm going to have an installation there. So if you guys are out at Maker Faire, come find me. I'll be happy to chat.
Love it. I love meeting more creative people for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you for watching the Marketing Optimization Podcast with Alex Designs. Please remember to subscribe to all of the videos in my YouTube channel. Thank you.